think I'm in.
Hello?
I'm in. Yeah?
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Smack Talk Live. I am Coach along with Lone Wolf. And to be honest, Lone Wolf, it's kind of a mixed bag in the sports world this week. So I guess let's start with the biggest thing I'm hearing, and I've read. The baseball season may be ending.
And are we surprised? I mean, really, come on.
No. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. It's one of those things where we weren't too keen on. No, not keen. We weren't too.
We weren't thinking that they were going to
confident
again. Yeah.
That the season was even going to get going.
Right.
And now you have basically the entire Marlins staff, or staff, a team getting COVID, and now two members of the Cardinals have tested positive.
Yes.
So you're having, and I guess I am at a loss, really, because how what are they doing outside of baseball that they're putting themselves at risk?
Yes.
Because if two people have it, that means probably the entire team has it. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I this is what blows my mind about this is, look, you're a professional athlete and you have a job, right? So normally when you're doing this job, you do what some of the athletes do. You insure yourself with Lloyd's of London for your arm because you don't want it to be, if it's damaged, you want to make sure that you're healthy. You don't go skydiving or whatever. You make sure you take care of your body to be prepared for the season. This is no different. I mean, I don't have to do that for my job, but these guys are professional athletes. They have to do that for their job. So if they're putting themselves at risk unnecessarily, it blows my mind a little bit, but not totally. It just I don't understand. Like, this is going on. You want to play baseball again. You want to get paid, but now here you are because you can't keep yourself away, and you're gonna get COVID, and now you're done.
Well, and that's my question is, where are they picking it up from? Because that's like saying, okay, we're going to bring 100 people in to this open air stadium.
Yeah.
And
you can get it from
test
anywhere.
everybody.
I mean, they must not be social distancing or keeping themselves away from a lot of other people. They're just kind of going out there and doing whatever they want, and then they get it. I mean,
right. And I don't feel sorry.
I mean, you can get it from almost anywhere. You just, you could go into a hospital and have somebody breathe on you if you really want to get it,
right.
I guess. But
right.
I don't understand the thought process behind what they're doing. Is you have to create acceptable risk, right? And you can take risks, you can live your life. We've talked about this a couple times before, but in this case, apparently they're just like, oh well, anything goes, I guess. I don't know.
Right, and that's my biggest thing is, they're obviously not taking precautions outside of the organization and their games because they're tested regularly. And like for the Marlins, when you have that big of an outbreak, that's just your organization's just not taking safeguards. I'm sorry, that's what it is.
Right. Yep.
I don't sit here and think that it's just it's because they're in Miami So even though Florida is kind of a hotbed right now, I don't think that's the reason. Because if you're smart, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're smart about it,
Yeah.
you decrease your chance of getting it.
Right.
So, but yeah, so the commissioner has warned the union that the baseball season may be coming to an end. Which we talked about this last week, that how this could be such a huge springboard for baseball with their postseason layout for this season. Now, if they cancel the season, this is like a nuclear bomb going off.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're teasing people with this, and then you just take it away.
Well, and they had such a promising start to their season too. I mean, the Yankees started off pretty hot. Things were looking good, and granted, it's a very very short lived thing, but nevertheless, people were excited about sports. They got their baseball back. There's a lot of positive things, and then yeah, this could derail baseball. Right at the very beginning, and man, wouldn't that be just a dagger for them?
So
Um,
I,
just a
I don't
dagger.
know. I don't know if they could recover. To be honest, I really don't. Um, I just I don't know if they could recover from it. So, anyways, let's talk about a little bit of, I guess, the stuff that matters really in baseball. You look at the first week basically, and there were a couple. Looking at I kind of scoreboard watched. I didn't watch any of the
Right.
games because there's no fans. And
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, a cup. Not there's not really a ton of surprises. I think the biggest surprise is over in the NL West. You have the Colorado Rockies at 4-1.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, I mean, we both said the Rockies had no chance,
No, I didn't think they'd be very good. I mean, granted, it's the beginning of this 60-game thing, but
but it's only 60 games.
right,
So
yeah,
you start out hot, then you only have to be around 500 the rest of the time and make the playoffs with the new format. So really, that's the only huge surprise. I think we were right on with the Reds. Everybody said
right,
they were so good, and they're just in there 2-5. Um,
yeah, yeah.
you know, and yeah, it's early,
Well,
but
and
again,
I mean, but some of these other games are interesting. You look at some of the scores and some of the things that are going on. Um, right now the Twins are destroying the Indians. Um, I mean, 4-0, but yeah, that's destroying in my
yeah,
opinion. But that's something like we talked about, that we thought those two teams would be the teams out of that division. But does that say the Twins are a lot better than the Indians? I don't know. It's only one game, but still.
right. And you just you look at it and you think about it. It's 60 games. Some teams have played 7 games. They're almost 10 games in, 50 games left.
Yeah.
That's not a
Yeah.
lot.
No.
And again, we talked about that. If you start out slow, you don't have time like at the regular season
Mm-hmm.
to kind of work your way back into it. If you get too far back, you're in trouble,
Right.
and you look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, we thought were going to be really good. Yeah, it's early, but they're 3 games back already.
Right. Right.
You have the Rockies winning again tonight. Right now, the Dodgers are sitting at 5-2, and the Padres are sitting at 5-2.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's
Three.
early on, but yeah, this makes a difference. It really kind of depends on how. I think honestly though, this does still matter as far as the virus is concerned, because you look at the baseball scores in the lineup right now. We can talk about like the Braves beat the Rays the other day. That's a great matchup. That's our World Series matchup if the baseball season actually gets
Mm-hmm.
there. But
Right, right.
Cardinals Brewers postponed. Phillies Blue Jays postponed because the Phillies and their Corona stuff that just happened. Nationals Marlins, same thing because of what happened in Miami. So all these games are postponed because of that. And I mean, we're looking at scores and talking about it, but in the end, it might not matter, depending on what Rob
Right.
Manfred does and how this plays out. You know.
Exactly. So again, we're holding our breath on baseball. Hopefully they can get the season in because the Brewers are sitting at 500. And we thought that it'd be nice to see them make the postseason again, just because we don't have a lot of winning seasons with the Brewers. So when they get one, we take one.
Right.
So
and they're 500. So in this format, as long as baseball goes forward, they got a chance.
Exactly. So let's slide quick to the one league we really dismissed because we didn't know what was happening.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The NHL. They are actually coming back. And I didn't know what was going on. You didn't really hear anything about it.
Right.
So
and
it looks
have
like
their own bubble similar to the NBA, according to what I was reading. Just kind of reading through a couple things now, and they're saying that according to what I had read in a couple different sources, there's 24 teams competing for the Stanley Cup in some type of bubble in a couple different cities, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so what they have, it's kind of almost like the super regionals for college baseball. So you got like tomorrow you have qualifying games. So and it's almost like pool play. So you have New York versus Carolina, Chicago versus Edmonton, Florida versus New York, Islanders, Montreal versus Pittsburgh, Winnipeg versus Calgary. That's one group. And then you had Sunday that is a totally different group. And then back on Monday, you have the same group, but against different, the same team. So they're playing series, qualifying series. It looks like the best out of 5. And then those teams move on. So they're going straight into the playoffs. They're saying forget the regular season. We're not going to even try to do this.
They had some type of training camp apparently too.
Yeah.
That's the thing about the NHL. Like you just said, we didn't really hear a whole lot about it. It was just kind of under the radar. There was a few stories maybe out there, but for the most part, they kept it under the radar until this came about. Not that the information was secret, but it would just really wasn't broadcast or out there or talked about.
It really, unless you're a diehard hockey fan, you didn't really hear much about it. They kind of kept things quiet and gave out information as needed. Really. So that is good to hear though, because I think again, the NHL could benefit from this, especially if baseball goes belly up.
Right.
The NHL could get a boost from this because people want to see sports.
They do, yes.
And they're going to want,
put that out there. I mean, we talked about the NBA benefiting from that already, but if baseball goes kaput, the NHL will be a beneficiary of that by being around and not having that issue.
Exactly. And that's the thing. So, again, it's going to be really interesting to see, how the NHL, I kind of like their format, their setup, but they're basically, we're not going to mess around with trying to get teams qualified and this and that. We're just heading into it. I kind of like that thought. I thought that's what the NBA should do. And maybe play a few tune-up scrimmage games and then just get into it. But they didn't. Yeah, no big deal.
Well, and I see. So everything is in Canada, and I did not realize that, but now I'm reading this article, and the Eastern Conference is playing all of its games in Toronto, and the Western Conference has all its games in Edmonton. So everything is in Canada.
Which
For
is
hockey.
weird because Toronto won't let the Blue Jays play there. You're gonna bring all these NHL teams into play
all
in
these
your city.
NHL teams are in Toronto playing.
But you can't have our hometown baseball team play.
No.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta sit back and like evaluate your decisions and be like, yeah, that's a bad PR look. No, too late. So
right, too late. It's already happened. Here we go.
So I'm kind of excited. I haven't really been excited for the NHL in a long time. We're both Blackhawk fans because we don't have a hometown team. So when they were top there for that 3 to 5 year run there, that was fun to watch. But if they're not really in it, we don't. I don't really pay too much attention. I started to last year more because of my adopted hometown team, Las Vegas. The Las Vegas Knights almost became the first ever expansion team to win its league championship in the first year of existence.
Your boys there, in Las Vegas.
But now I see that they are in it. I was like, and now I see they are not even in the qualifying, but they are. So I was like,
good. You're still good, coach. You're still good.
So we're still good there. I got two teams in it, 2 teams in the fight still. So, all right. So let's take this to probably, I guess, right now the most popular league going on here, the NBA.
The
started up
of everything else. I mean, there's other sports faltering or not quite yet starting. This league has started and is the beneficiary of being that sport that's out there again for people to watch.
Right. And they started up technically yesterday with the Lakers and the Clippers with the first game with the Lakers winning by 2. Today our Bucks, they played Boston, so one of the top teams in the East, won by 7. First game out, not too shabby, I think. I mean, not, some people may be a little panicked because it was only a 7-point victory. Well, Boston's a good team. So first game back, I'll take a 7-point win versus a solid team. It'll be interesting to see if the NBA has the same outbreak issue that Major League Baseball does.
Yeah. I don't think they will. I mean, the differences that you have now, the NHL is kind of copying the model of the NBA. They stick them in this, bubble and essentially isolate them from everything else. And I think that's the problem with baseball, is that you've got all these teams over all these cities. You're not really regulating what the players are doing and where they're going. So, with the NBA, they're all in the same location, right? So if they go somewhere else, that they're going somewhere else. Then they really shouldn't or can't go somewhere else. So that's the difference, and I think that's where the NBA shouldn't have that problem. I don't think.
Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see. Now, here's one interesting thing with the NBA here, because I was just curious because they said they're playing this 20-game schedule. Well, I went back and looked before they started. The Bucks didn't even have 20 games left on their regular season schedule, so are they gonna make the Bucks? I was like, well, are they just gonna keep track from just the 20 games? No, they're adding it to their standings. Their standings are updated.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, it's gonna be interesting. If I'm the Bucks, I'm gonna say once we get to 82 games, we're not playing these last 2 games.
Yeah, no, right.
There's no point. There's no point to.
I agree. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out because, like, the Lakers too only have technically 18 games left, and the Bucks have 16 on their 82 games. So it'll be interesting to see, how they do that. But that is one
honestly,
thing.
I mean, I'll tell you, Coach, I was really pleased to see that this was one of the first games that they had because these teams are both the real deal, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what fans really wanted to see. Um, I'm not concerned about it. I mean, the Bucks came away with a win, and they're playing, to me and to you, I think too, the next best team in the Eastern Conference. So
Right.
I look at it as very solid, and I think everybody was pleased to see that. I talked to a couple different people over the week, and they said they couldn't wait to get to Friday to be able to watch this game, and get back in not only into sports, but we live in Wisconsin, so they're Bucks fans, obviously, and they were really excited about it, which is great.
Right. And again, it's a solid first win.
Yeah,
Um, especially for um, you know the lengthy layoff, and not you can say, well, they're fresh, but here's the thing: they might be fresh, but there's no way that they were doing as much work during the quarantine and the shutdown than um, than they normally would. That there's just no way.
yeah. No,
So
I'm sure not. Yeah,
so yeah. So nothing too surprising, I think, so far out of scores. Portland beat Memphis, Phoenix beat Washington, Milwaukee beat Boston. Sacramento is losing to San Antonio, and Dallas is beating Houston right now. So um, we'll finally get to see. And again, I'm being cautiously optimistic with games and stuff right now because of the stuff that's happening in Major League
yeah.
Baseball, just to see if this stuff is going to happen in the other sports. Because if this
In the
stuff,
other sports, right?
if the bubbles don't work, the NFL season, I don't think it's going to happen. To be honest, I
Right.
really don't. Um, and people can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
If both models fail that are being tried right now, there will not be an NFL season. I'm putting it out there. And people may think I'm full of it. I'm just saying my opinion from looking at everything.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball, no fans, limited personnel, which is what the NFL is talking about. But then Goodell opens it up and says, "Oh, if you have fans, then they have to wear masks." Well, now you have players testing,
Hmm.
right and left positive for COVID, and then there's other talk, will the NFL go to a bubble format, which they could. It would be interesting to see how they do it, but they could. Um, if the NBA and the NHL have outbreaks, then that format's not a possibility. And then
Right.
I don't know what other options you'd have.
And honestly, I think you're right because the NFL is has the benefit of being able to wait until these other seasons start up because they're going on when the NFL's not. So they look at the models and they say, okay, what can we do when we restart? But yeah, if they both fail, then the NFL is a business. They're not dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're going to look at it and they're going to say, can we do this and will it work? When we already have a bunch of players. I mean, I get updates on my phone constantly about these players tested positive. These players are opting out. When we talked about some of that, if that's the case and you see more and more of that, they're not going to be able to do their season. I completely agree with you. If these models fail, then the NFL is going to look at that and say, yep, we just can't pull it off.
Right.
So, I mean, what's the trickle down effect from something like that, too? If the NFL doesn't go, what about college football?
Well, and we'll get into that here. I do want to touch
Yeah.
think we'll talk about the NFL before we talk about some college football here.
Sure. Okay.
The big thing, NFL training camps starting to get going. The NFL has a COVID list, like a COVID reserve list, like injured reserve. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did. I just
But
saw
you
it.
had Mason Crosby and one other Packer that were.
Yep.
They take a test. I don't know if it means they're positive or if they're being watched for it. I couldn't. I didn't understand
sure
it
that either. Yeah, I didn't know.
So that's kind of an interesting take, though, because if these players go through this daily screening, and then there's the team feels, hey, there's a possibility they might have COVID. They go on this list, and then probably isolated from the rest of the team, which is a smart thing if you want to try to have a season.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So that was interesting. A couple of things I just found this out because I haven't really been by a computer all day. Antonio Brown, 8-game suspension. File your retirement papers, Antonio. You are not getting signed by anybody.
I was just gonna say, like, is he with a team? I mean, because I didn't think he was, so I don't know what's.
No, what'll happen is if somebody signs him, he has to sit 8 games first.
Sure, right.
So and that's the thing. I mean, and that goes even, you trickles down to even college and the NFL. If a player gets this, well, not college and high school, if a player gets suspended, like you take high school. If a player gets suspended during the fall season, and they don't play a sport in the winter, the suspension doesn't go away. The suspension starts at their next season. So,
right.
It's like you're not getting. Nobody's going to sign you, except for maybe a league minimum. Have you sit for 8 games and hope you can help them in the playoffs. That's all I can see that could happen for him. So,
yeah, and I mean that's just one of those, like, we talk about it because he's so good as a football player, yet as a human being, probably not.
Right.
And so I mean, it's just one of those risks that even a Jerry Jones would do a double take on as to whether or not he'd want to sign somebody like that.
I don't know. Jerry may say, hey.
Okay. I think even Jerry Jones would say, I'm not sure if I want to sign this guy. He loves the media circus. But
I think if Antonio Brown with Jerry Jones said, hey, I'll sign me for $1 million a year, Jones would sign him in a heartbeat.
Okay,
almost.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Jerry Jones has no idea what he's doing. And like I said, I hope some of these clips get to them because I think he's out of his mind. He's the new Al Davis of the NFL. He's worse than Dan Schneider.
Yeah.
Dan Schneider doesn't hide the fact he doesn't know football, but he wants to know football, so he tries. And it's like, just sign checks, man. Just sign the checks. Don't try to get involved in football operations. It doesn't work. I don't know how many times we've bashed owners for that stuff, and I'll continue to do it because many owners. You look at the really good teams, the good owners just sit there. Robert Kraft, maybe with the Garoppolo thing, he had his hand in that a little bit, but there's no proof of it. Will they urge their football operations to do certain things? Probably, but if they don't do it, it's not like Jerry Jones are like, you're fired because you didn't do what I wanted you to do.
He's overseeing everything. Yeah.
So
in a very direct way. Yeah.
Right. So we'll see with Mr. Antonio Brown. I think his career's over and done with.
Yeah.
But the bigger news, and I had texted you,
Right.
we have, we talked about this a little bit too. Emerson Griffin and the Packers both have mutual interest. It sounds like as long as they can work out some financial details, that is going to happen, which I think would make the Packers defensive front pretty impressive. You got the Smiths,
sick.
and then you got Griffin, and plus you have Kenny Clark in there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty impressive front four.
Yeah, it's a sick rotation. I mean, that would be a really, really good front.
So, and then kind of segueing into the top where I wanted to get into, Darren Funchess opts out of the season. And yes, I know, we talk about, having to give, Rodgers weapons, things like that.
Right.
Could he provided help? Yes, obviously.
Right.
Is it the end of the world? No. Let's get that straight. He's not like a game-changing receiver. He's a solid receiver, but he's not one of those guys that if you lose him, you're going to be like, oh my God, what do we do?
No. I mean, I look at it, Coach, as this, the Packers are probably going to run the ball a lot more based on how they want to do things and what they drafted and everything else. But secondly, a lot of teams are going to be impacted by this. I mean, you and I were talking about this earlier in the week. Damian Williams for the Chiefs out. So a lot of teams are going to see this impact anyway. So, I mean, one team loses a player like Funchess, but other teams are going to be impacted and they're going to be losing players as well. And that's all assuming, again, that the NFL is able to go and make a model work based on what the other leagues are doing. So if the NFL goes, you're going to see teams that are going to have this issue where they're going to lose a key player here and there. So everybody's going to be in the same boat in terms of suffering from the bite of the virus in some way, shape, or form. I mean, obviously, if you lose the key player, like a Rodgers or something, or if Tampa Bay lost Brady, it just wouldn't be the same team, obviously.
Right. And so, you hear the Patriots, have lost 6 players to have opted out of the season. Dante Hightower, sitting. Brandon Bolden, their fullback, Vitale.
Yep.
Patrick Chung. I mean, those are some key players.
Huge players for
them. To that team that
somehow
already
they were
has a depleted roster.
Right. And you and I thought that they weren't going to be a playoff team or contend for their division anyway. And so now
those
those players, Chung, I mean, come on.
I don't even see them making the play.
No, I agree. I don't think they will. Yeah, I don't think they can.
Right.
Especially with those players sitting out.
They're hurting. But you talk about players and is Williams from Kansas City to do, and will it impact them? Absolutely. I really think the pressure now is shifting more to Patrick Mahomes, because a lot of times he could just do a little 3-yard swing pass out to Williams and these other guys, and they would do the rest of the work. Now he loses that. and I text you this. I think this is going to show us if Mahomes is worth the contract he got.
Right.
Um, and I think it was a little bit sooner than people were hoping. I think they were hoping that they could have maybe another year or two of him, not having to have all that pressure on him. But I think because Williams was not the only Chief that opted out.
Right.
Let's see.
Yeah,
I just want to see.
I agree. I mean, that is where we are now. If the NFL season starts and he's out there, he's playing. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Mahomes. Look, I mean, kudos to him, like we talked about, and his
Right.
agent for getting this deal. We've always said, if you can do it as a professional athlete and you get that deal, more power to you. But now the pressure is on. You have to perform. You have to live up to that contract. And so far, as a player, he has. He's been phenomenal. Yeah, he's had a few minor injuries, but for the most part, he's been phenomenal. Came back in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl. Yeah, okay, we get it. Great. But you have a 10-year deal. You have to keep performing, or you won't live up to that contract. You won't be the phenom anymore. And so there's a tremendous amount of pressure on him to perform.
So as of today, or as of yesterday, I mean,
okay,
you had 2 Chiefs opt out, and you think, oh, it's only 2. These aren't just any regular second, third string special teams guys.
Yeah,
Damian Williams, running back,
right,
and then Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, who is one of the Chiefs, who's the Chiefs' right guard.
Yeah.
That's huge for a quarterback.
Huge. Yeah.
Yep. You lost 2 of your starters on offense.
Right.
And they have a whole list here.
They drafted a running back, but still.
They might have drafted somebody, but you just never know. Look at
this guy was integrated into your offense and played in your Super Bowl, and you draft a guy. I mean, they did draft somebody, but and that was with the top pick and their top pick in the first round. But nevertheless, you just don't know. I mean, and the offensive lineman, that to me is even more of a crucial blow. Because you want to keep your $540 million or whatever it is quarterback upright as much as you possibly can. So
right. So it's going to be interesting. The Patriots by far hit the worst with these sit downs. They have 6. Yeah. Most teams have 1 or 2 that are sitting, and they're not like big name guys. The Bears, Eddie Goldman, that's a kind of a big one for them.
Yeah.
Giants have Nate Solder sitting. The Eagles have Marquise Goodwin. But other than that, you look through the Chance Warmack for the Seahawks offensive guard, but it's not like, oh my Lord, we're devastated. Right. But I think in this article, it's put out by a Kansas City station, so they're spinning it that they drafted a running back, they signed a veteran lineman to fill a spot. Sure. It's not the same. Yeah. Not the same. Those guys have been in the system. They knew the system. There was chemistry already.
Yep.
Building chemistry doesn't happen within training camp. It happens over a period of years.
Especially not an abbreviated training camp.
Right.
Now, I mean, they're not doing the same everything they'd be doing in a normal off season.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but that's about it for the NFL. Not too much. It's going to be very interesting here as now the training camps are starting. I guess these first 4 days of training camp all have been on about COVID. Like they're going through like a COVID symposium about how the COVID and all this stuff works, and it's like, wow, that's kind of interesting. But other than that, really things aren't going to get going. We aren't going to see a lot of stuff probably until next week or the week after with this as we go forward. And I think the NFL stuff is all week to week.
Yeah.
So we'll see there. One thing I want to bring up though, is how this is. Like you had said before, how is this going to impact college football?
Right.
Well, I don't think colleges aren't waiting for the pro teams. The WIAC, which is the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Conference, or intercollegiate, sorry, not interscholastic, intercollegiate athletic conference, along with a few other D3 conferences, have canceled their fall seasons for most sports. Not all sports, most sports.
Right. And I said that intentionally earlier because I knew we talked about this and I wanted to get to that in the later portion of the show here. So, yeah.
And so, and people are like, oh, probably thinking, okay, it's Division III, it's lower level sports. Here's the thing. A lot of kids go to these universities because they want to continue playing sports, but they don't really have a desire, besides the sport to go initially. But then once they're there, they find a major and they get involved, and then they, get immersed into that college life.
Right.
They're not going to have that. There's an article about how this is going to impact enrollment at these universities, which in turn will impact their funding.
Oh yeah.
And and all this stuff. The Barry Alvarez came out and said if the college football season doesn't happen, Wisconsin may lose up to $100 million in revenue.
I mean, that's insane.
That's
huge.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So and that's the thing with smaller universities, you lose $50,000, and you're going to have a tremendous impact.
So these D3 programs making this decision, it's a huge thing for them, and revenue-wise, they don't have the same budgets as the D1 programs do, but it's going to have a big impact on them. Some of them have major programs in one sport or another, and if they're not playing that sport for the fall, there you go. I mean, that's a huge impact on their overall sports budget.
Right, and it's looking at if the WIC would have went with the football season, each program would have had to purchase and administer over 1,000 COVID tests.
Yeah,
according to the NCAA guidelines.
And how are they going to afford that?
Right.
I mean, really,
exactly.
They can't. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm just going through here. They did talk about that. They may be able to play these fall sports in an abbreviated spring season, and the way that they've set it up is that their players wouldn't lose a year of eligibility with the spring season because it'd be under the game threshold according to the NCAA guidelines. So kind of cheating the system a little bit, but here's another impact. Because those seasons aren't happening, the UW system is furloughing full-time coaches and support staff.
Right. And not only that, but I was talking to a friend of mine who I work with, and he was saying that there are other staff who may be impacted by this sports situation, just because of monetary concerns. So
Right, exactly. You think about the people that work, facilities,
Right.
and those, if you work a home game, it might be some extra hours, some overtime hours that helps them pay their bills or send their own kids to school. Now they aren't going to have that. And I think people don't look at that part of it. And I know this is a sports podcast, but we're talking about the impact on sport, on how it positively and negatively, because of this COVID,
Right. Right.
is impacting people. Um, I'm just looking through. I'm trying to find out the list of sports because the WIC is
Well, you said most, right? So there are still some that are going, apparently.
right, and that's what I want to talk. I just want to make sure I have the list right,
Okay.
um,
And the ones
because
that are still going forward.
right.
Okay.
Because the coaches can still have meetings and weight room time, and can have some type of practices with their players in the fall.
Okay.
Um, where's the list? I want to make sure I have this right, because I know if I don't, somebody's gonna call me on it. Um,
Yeah.
this day and age, you can't be wrong. This day and age, you gotta have everything right.
I mean, we're a non-sponsored, non-paid show, so
Right.
in this sense, you say something and it's a little wrong. I mean, yes, people call you out on it, but at the same time, yeah, but I know what you mean. Yeah, we want to be forthright
So
and tell people exactly what's going on.
I can't find the list. I'm not going to waste our show's time on doing this.
That's fine. That's
Um,
fine.
I know like tennis is still happening, golf is still happening. I'm not sure cross country. So my thing here is this. So at the high school level,
Right.
the state association has delayed the start of our season to September 7th. So we lose
Okay.
a month in football, soccer, volleyball.
Okay.
Tennis, golf, and cross country are going on as scheduled. And I voiced not my displeasure, but my concern over how we consider football high risk and cross country not. And people are gonna be like, well, it's simple. Football, you're hitting and tackling, and here's the thing: you are touching and hitting somebody for maybe 3 seconds at a time.
Right.
If you have ever been to a cross country meet, there's hundreds of kids running in about a 5-foot tunnel, touching each other
They're all
for
over
the
each other.
entire race. Right.
They're all over each other. I don't care if
And,
it's a sprint or a
and
distance run.
right.
They're all over
And,
each other.
and here's the thing. Football players normally wear sleeves. They have gloves on. They have a helmet on.
Yeah.
They have long pants on. Cross country runners, a tank top and a pair of shorts.
Yeah.
Where can more body contact and germs be spread?
Right.
And
I
now,
honestly I don't get it, Coach. I really don't. I mean, it makes no
you know,
sense to me
we
at
look. They're
all.
looking at.
I don't get it. I'm flabbergasted.
They're looking at risk factor on how dangerous a sport is, not how easily
The virus is
the
transmitted.
virus can be
Yeah, and it
transmitted.
makes no sense. It makes no sense. Physical danger doesn't matter in this case.
Right.
Virus transmission. If you are close to somebody and they are breathing on you, I would even go so far as to say cross country might be more dangerous, especially in the
Right.
distance runs, because if you have a pack of guys or girls together and they're all breathing hard, they've been running for say 10 miles, talk about virus transmission, they're all right
Right.
there.
Right.
What are you
It,
thinking?
you know, so
Yeah.
and you even look at now football, like and we ordered these. It's a disposable visor with a
Mm-hmm.
face mask shield, so it goes over the outside of the face mask, so it covers from the top of the opening of the helmet all the way down to the chin.
Okay.
So your breathing on somebody is very limited. What are cross country runners are going to have to wear masks because per the order that starts tomorrow,
Right.
Lone Wolf, here in the state of Wisconsin, if you are, it doesn't matter. If you are outside and can't
Public
socially
place.
distance,
Yeah.
you must wear a mask.
Yeah.
They can't be socially distanced in a cross country race. I'm sorry.
No, it's not possible. I mean,
You know, maybe
you're
the
going to
maybe
jostle, you're going to be together. Distance running, you might be able to set a pace and be away from somebody, but usually what ends up happening with those is there's a pack of people that are all together. And
right.
in a sprint, it's impossible unless you just torch somebody to be away from everybody
Right.
else.
Exactly.
200 meters doesn't matter. You're going to have people around you constantly.
So it's going to be interesting because I know we just announced it to our kids for our weight room last night. Oh, starting next week, you have to wear a mask while you're lifting.
Right.
And they flipped out. Well, I agree, but that's the rule. We have to follow it. You know,
and I will say this. I mean, for me, I do martial arts, and we talked about this the other day in our school, and we're going to be wearing masks. It's a business, and we have to abide by that. But at the same time, we're going to be taking a lot of breaks because every time we're exerting ourselves, we're going to be stopping because it's just going to be that hard to breathe with the mask on. We'll abide by it, but yeah, it makes everything that much harder. I don't know. To me, cross country would almost be impossible if you had to wear a mask. I really don't even know how you'd accomplish that.
But I mean, I know you read the order from the governor.
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's pretty black and white. There's no gray area on this thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Unless you're public speaking. I mean, I don't think any of the cross country kids are going to be doing any public speaking while they're running. But yes, it is very black and white.
It basically states if you are outside and cannot socially distance,
right,
you have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, to your point, Coach, how is football worse than cross country if everybody's wearing a mask?
Right. Exactly. So
it makes no sense.
It blows my mind on that, but I digress because we're getting off.
I think we were a little off topic, but I think it matters to a lot of listeners for us from the standpoint that I think a lot of states are dealing with this from a college level, high school level. It's not unique to Wisconsin. We're just drawing from our experience talking about Wisconsin right now. But I think a lot of states are probably in the same boat in terms of where they are and talking about high school sports and college sports. So,
yeah, and a lot of state organizations are delaying their fall season again, though, for football, soccer, volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they have lacrosse, but that doesn't make sense. If you have protective gear on,
right,
you are less likely to transmit than if you are running basically like you're on the beach and you're bumping into people.
Yep.
Like volleyball. I'm sorry. You're telling me 6 girls standing across the court, with the net there. They're not 6 feet apart, but they're spread out on their side of the court. If they wear masks, that's more dangerous than cross country because they touch a ball that gets sanitized all the time. How is that more?
I don't know. I mean, I know it's indoors in comparison to being outdoors, but still, yeah.
Okay, well, take this. Soccer. You're kicking the ball. The only time you touch ball is when you throw it in. So, ball goes out of bounds. You give the player a clean ball. You sanitize the one that goes out of bounds, right? If you touch an opponent in soccer, it's usually a penalty. So there's not usually a lot of physical contact in soccer.
Right.
How is that more dangerous than cross country? For transmission purposes. Not if you're listening, this is not about injury. This is about transmission.
Right. This is not about the danger of the sport itself, which I don't want people to get hung up on.
Right.
It's about transmission of the virus. And that's what we should be talking about when we're
Correct.
talking about what sports are going to go or not go. Not physical injury, because that it's irrelevant for this discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And that's it. So it's going to be really interesting on how all this stuff plays out. Because I'll tell you right now, if you, especially at the local levels across the country, if you delay those sports seasons and you let other sports play, and then all of a sudden you cancel those delayed seasons and those other teams complete their season, oh my Lord. I don't care if there's a pandemic. There are going to be people out there that file lawsuits.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Is it right or wrong? I'm not here to judge that.
We're in a litigious society. They'll file a lawsuit.
Right, exactly.
Whether it's right or wrong. Yeah.
And that's the point. The way our society is, somebody will sue just to sue, whether they have any basis for it or not. And that's what people have to look at, and they don't look at that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out as we move forward with things. And you brought up, we started with this with college sports and the smaller conferences canceling. To be honest, this is my opinion. I have no factual basis to confirm this.
Okay. All right.
Okay. This is my opinion. I believe that all these conferences, whether it's Division I college, Division II, III high school, all these delays are kind of a facade. So when they cancel the seasons, they say, we tried. We tried to save the season. I think seasons are being canceled. I really do. Everything you look at, I just think, as much as we want, high school sports,
right?
I think the politicalness that has come into this whole situation, which is it shouldn't be, is going to cause people to cancel seasons.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because there should be nothing political about this at all.
Yeah.
Decisions are made that impact the youth all the time, and it sucks because it shouldn't. That the first thought would be like, how can we benefit our youth? And I know there's the reopening of schools. I'm not going to get into, but there's already research being done of how not being around their friends and not having that daily routine is increasing depression and suicide and all this other stuff in our youth. And if anything, like you know it, and I've told other people, I'm a teacher and a coach. I am very much okay with taking the risk of getting ill so our youth has an opportunity to be around their friends to help with the depression suicide, because I think that's almost worse than getting COVID.
Well, and I think that you bring up some good points here about this, and obviously we want to be mindful of this and take precautions, but I think some people just it's unfortunate. I think they lack the courage to come out and just say we're going to cancel the season.
Right.
Just do it. Look.
Yeah, exactly.
Get it. Okay? just do it already. Hey, come out and say you're going to cancel it if you're going to cancel it. If you're not, stop beating around the bush. Just do it. We know that this is going to create a lot of unforeseen complications, and logistically it's hard, but you got to have the courage to come out there and do it. I get it. There's a lot of pressure in some of these situations, um, to be able to do certain things, but come on, okay? We're here. We know that's what you're doing. I think you're onto something with that, and I know there's no per se no basis to it, but I think you're right. I get that sense just just from work and what I'm doing, and people kind of passing this on and saying, okay, we're not going back to work, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. They're not quite committing to something. They're just kind of saying, okay, we'll wait and see. So this is the same approach here. If you just
Right.
come out and say, look, it's too dangerous, we're not going to have a season, this is our decision, and here's why. Sure, parents will be upset, and people will be upset about it, but you've made your decision. So you can live with it. And oh my God.
Don't
And don't apologize
apologize.
for it.
I
Right?
can't stand that.
Yeah.
You
Just
give him the
stand your decision.
give him the reason why and say you can disagree with me,
Right.
but
Here it
this is
is. Yep.
the facts behind the decision. So, anything else sports wise here on Lone Wolf that I did
No,
not bring up?
I think we went through the major sports. I think we talked about college, obviously, and high school too. So I think we can get to our top five.
All right. So this week's top five, we kind of had a stretch for this one. We're really going to have to think about a top five for next week here. So
Yes, we will.
this week's top five is our top five favorite sports movie speeches. To be honest, that there was a lot. I was going through a list,
It's kind of nuts, yeah.
and I'm thinking there's all these great speeches, but then I'm like, oh, that's real. That happened in a real sport. That speech actually happened. And again, my criteria is I don't use those. They're
Right.
not meaning that they're bad speeches. I just don't use those. I like things that didn't happen.
Sure.
So
And I kind of went away from that a little bit in this particular top five, because it's embellished in this particular
okay,
case. So I did use one that is a real situation. So I got away from my normal criteria of not using a real speech, sort of. So
yeah, and again, I haven't been able to figure it out, everybody. But if you do know, please drop me a line on how to add sound bites to Podbean, because I tried to figure out a way to just get clips of the speeches on here, but I couldn't figure it out. I don't know what happened. But anyways, let's get started. My number five, and I'm going to forewarn you, there is one movie here. I have on two speeches from one of the movies here.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yes,
All right.
two speeches from one movie.
Okay.
So
all right.
my number five, and the reason I love this speech is just because how it ends the movie. It leaves the room shocked, but it leaves you like cheering for the guy.
Okay.
Very, very well-known actor. Been in a lot of good movies. The actor is Al Pacino.
Okay. Is
And
it
it is
by inch in any given Sunday?
no, that's not my number five. That's not my number five.
Okay.
I will say it is on my list, but not number five.
All right. All right.
This is his final press conference speech where he is saying goodbye to the city of Miami. And he ends the speech with, I will see you all next year, because he became a head coach of the Aztecs.
Right.
And he just signed Miami Sharks new star quarterback Willie Beeman to a contract, taking him from the team he is leaving. You gotta love it. They tried to give him the boot all year. He
Yep.
fought against it,
Yep.
and then he signs their starting quarterback away from him as he's walking out.
Yes.
As
Yes.
he's walking
out
out the door. That is a classic in my mind. I love that because that's something I would do.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I agree. That's a good one. I like that. My number 5 is, and there's some funny ones in here for me, so this is one of them. My number 5 is the Patches O'Houlihan speech right before he puts on the blindfold as a motivational speech to trust your training.
That's right. Trust your training.
Before he puts on the blindfold and defeats White Goodman at the end of Dodgeball, a true underdog story.
Awesome.
You really can't beat a ghost of a guy who is in a wheelchair who I mean we can't get into the dirty parts obviously, but
Right.
That whole speech is just it's funny. So
yeah,
we love Dodgeball, so yeah.
Right, and I thought of Dodgeball, I really did.
Yeah.
But I've went to the well so many times. I'm like, no,
I know what you mean.
No, not going to go there. But
that's why it was my number 5. Because I got some other really, really good ones. So,
but my number 4 is almost on the same level as Dodgeball.
Okay.
It is more of a B-rated movie, and unless you like B-rated movies, you're not going to.
What, Bubba Hotep?
No, not that. You can't stretch that. It's not a sports movie.
Come on. It's really not. No, I know.
Great movie, not a sports movie.
Right.
The movie where this is from it's a stretch.
Okay.
I guess if it's a sports movie. But it is. Because it has games like beer pong, quarters, and Das Boot.
Okay. All right. I like it. Yep. It's all Beer Fest, right?
Beer Fest. Yes, exactly. Now, there are a lot of great speeches in this movie, but it's the last speech where they're all huddled together.
Yep.
And they're about to take the Germans on. And I don't remember the leader's name, but he's wasted off his mind. He goes, "We're the bad guys, and we aren't going to let the good guys win." They have to correct him and say, "But we're the good guys." "Oh yeah!" And then they have to start all over. And then they all name something different of what they're gonna win for. And then they say 4, and then they go through, and it's just a jumble. It's a hilarious thing, but it's like you gotta love it.
I got you, man. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So that is my number 4.
All right. So my number 4 is from a boxing movie. It's a bit inappropriate. So I'm well, and especially now, it's probably really sensitive. So I won't say what is said in this exchange. All I'll say is it's from the movie Diggstown.
Ooh,
boxing movie.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's a good one.
James Woods.
Yeah.
Talking to Louis Gossett Jr. about his fight at the time. And he got in close to this guy, and he was kind of getting his butt kicked, and the other guy picked him up and threw him to the ground. And he says, he comes back and he's talking to him, and he says, "Well, you're something," and I won't say it, but yeah, his motivational speech is horrible, but somehow it works in this case.
Shocking.
But yeah, no, it worked. Obviously, Louis Gossett Jr. Come on, he wins.
Yeah.
He beats all those people. That was my number 4. I really like that movie, and I think it's kind of a forgotten one amongst certain movies, but I really enjoyed Diggstown.
It is a good movie. Yeah, it's a very good movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, my number 3.
Okay.
All I gotta say is, and this isn't the speech I'm referencing, but if you ain't first, you're last. That's the movie.
Okay.
So
All
Ricky
right.
Bobby, but
Uh-huh.
it is the speech when Ricky Bobby is forced to drive with a cougar in his car. And his dad tells him he saw the fear and he has to face the fear. And he has to
Yep.
conquer that fear, which is the cougar in the
Colombian
car.
Bam Bam. Yeah.
Colombian Bam Bam.
Oh man.
That is my number 3.
That's
Great scene
awesome.
because he runs from the cops, gets kind of his balls back, and finds
Yep.
out it's Lucky Charms. Gotta
You
love
know,
it.
it's
That's my number
funny.
3.
It's funny, Coach, that you mentioned that movie because my number 3 is also from that
Hello?
movie. However, my number 3 is a different part of that film. And it's the scene in the bar where Susan climbs over the table and says, Ricky Bobby is a driver. And she gives him the motivational speech to get himself back into it and say, look, you're a driver and you're going to do it and you're going to win. And here's why. And then, she does the whole hair flipping thing and, whatever. But yes, that is my motivational speech from the same movie, Talladega Nights. Um, there's a couple different scenes in that movie that work in terms of motivational speeches, but that is my number 3 motivational speech. Susan giving Ricky Bobby the motivational speech that he needs at that moment.
Yes, and then she makes some, lovely animal noises.
Yes, that too. Yes. Yeah.
All right, so another great speech from Ricky Bobby. So, my top 2, I debated back and forth. Do I go with the serious, like
Right.
one that I usually always listen to before a game, or do I go with a class? Yeah, in my mind, a classic.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to go with, and I hate to do it to the guy because he does give some great speeches in movies. I'm gonna have to go with Al Pacino.
Yep.
Inches in Any
Yep.
Given Sunday is my number 2.
Yep.
My number
Okay.
2, just
Okay.
because I love the speech and I listen to it a lot during the season, but
Yeah.
it, not necessarily like I don't really want to watch the whole movie all the time. I just want the speech. The other
Right.
one,
Right.
I want to watch the whole movie to get to the speech.
Sure. Yeah. I hear you.
So,
Yep.
Inches by Al Pacino is my number 2. Great motivational speech.
Yep.
Yeah, if you find anybody that says, "Oh, it's a horrible speech," call
You got to
me.
check their
We're
head.
gonna have to
Yeah. You
talk
got to check
because
their head. Yeah.
that is one of the best motivational sports speeches in any movie I've ever seen.
And I will say that for me, I knew you were going to go Any Given Sunday, so maybe part of me was like, I'll stay away from that movie. um, it's honorable mention on my list because I don't have it on my list, but it's one of those, yeah, you can't deny. I mean, you really can't. Al Pacino to me is just brilliant. Pretty much no matter what he does, I love his stuff. So when he does
Mhm.
that, it's just yeah, it's amazing. I went more goofy with the first couple of speeches that I had. There's some good ones, but I went more serious with these last two. And I thought about it. I hadn't given any love to one movie. That's going to be my number 1. But this particular one is one that kind of touches me just because I I'm a history guy. I love that. And this particular speech comes from a sports movie, um, but it also references something historical, and that is the Coach Boone's speech at Gettysburg
Mhm.
in Remember the Titans.
Yes,
Um, it's awesome. I
it,
mean,
it is.
Denzel Washington is just, you know,
Well,
spot on.
and he's another actor that gives great speeches in a lot of his movies.
Yeah,
And like I said, that probably would have been on my list, or at least a speech from that movie. But again, I
right.
stay away from the the true story movies. Just and it's nothing against them. It's just that's a preference
Sure.
that I have. I want to do stuff that's not common to everybody.
Right.
Um,
And I
because
and I violated that own principle in this particular case because I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going for it. But yeah, I know what you mean.
all right, so we're to our number ones.
Yes.
So my number one, probably one of the more underrated motivational sports speeches. And again, kind of this one might be stretching it almost to the point of breaking that it's a sports movie. Um, we
Okay.
referenced the movie last week. It's not the same scene, but this is a one of those moments in a movie where everybody's about to give up, pack up, give up, and Mitch comes
You went
in
with old school, didn't you? You were going
to
old school.
yes, we have old school, and Mitch comes in to the hotel room, gives just imploring everybody to go fight because they're going to get kicked out of college if they don't fight. And they go and they win.
You
So
know,
old school, my number one, Mitch in the
I
hotel
love it.
room
I love it. Mitch in
is
the
my number
hotel room.
one motivational speech.
You know, I obviously we love that movie and we've seen it about 100 times, and I love that scene. You know, Mitch is reluctant at first, but then at that point in the movie, you know he's serious, right? He's all
He
in. He's gonna
he
give it.
becomes he becomes the Godfather in that movie. In
Yes,
that scene, that he
in that
becomes the
scene, he's the
Godfather.
Godfather. Yes, yeah, I love it. That's great. Um, yeah, and you can't go wrong with that movie anyway. So
Yeah,
no
yeah,
matter what you
that's
do.
it's a great movie.
So I decided, like I said, I'm breaking my own rule about the whole sports, whatever. You know, in this case, this is a real event, but embellished for Hollywood, obviously. So I went with a more serious one for my number one. Um, Mine was the speech by Kurt Russell in the movie Miracle about how you were born for this at the moment, you know, before they're playing the game. Um, and so, like I said, it's a serious moment, but I think it fits. I have been dodging the movie Miracle a lot
Yes,
because I've been saying, "Oh well, you know, it's a real event," and da da da. I couldn't stay away from it. You know, it the moment in the movie in terms of speech. It's touching. It's there. It hits home to you in so many ways. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm gonna give it some love, even if it's kind of going against what I was saying before about sports movies and being a real event. So I said, whatever. You can't ignore it forever. And so I made that one my number one because I think it's one of the better ones out there in terms of motivational speeches. And like I said, it hits home. It hits home. So
and I agree. I can't disagree with that. And again, we don't really have a set criteria on how we pick our favorite.
Kind of, yeah.
We pick a topic and we think about it and decide what we feel our top 5 are each week. So again, this is for fun, to end the show on a fun note again, because even tonight, not a ton of positive sports reporting out there because of everything going on. Even though the NFL training camps are started, you have players opting out, the NHL, NBA returning, but are they going to be successful? And the baseball season that could be heading off of a cliff any day. Lower level sports being canceled. So we have to end on a positive note and a fun note, because that's how we end our shows. So again, my number 1, old school, Mitch motivating his fraternity, and Lone Wolf miracle
speech,
which is great,
right?
But totally two different
two opposite ends there.
vibes.
Yeah.
So,
but both good, both really good in different ways.
Both very good movies. So again, that's all I have, Lone Wolf, unless you have anything else to add here before we wrap it up.
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Again, Friday night, and whenever we do a show on Friday, our live audience is lower, but it's a Friday night. I can't blame people. I probably wouldn't be listening to a live podcast either on a Friday night if I wasn't doing the show.
Right. But hey, catch us on YouTube.
Everybody that
downloads there,
Yep. YouTube, right here on Podbean, and things are gonna, I think start progressing a little bit. We'll have to have a meeting here, Lone Wolf. I have some ideas to possibly increase our show a little bit. But changes are coming. If we will be possibly doing a Smack Talk Live Fantasy Football League. So if you're interested, drop us an email at our email address, which is in our bio. If you're interested, no entry fee. It will be for fun, and we may have a prize attached to it if we can come up with something. Again, like Lone Wolf said earlier, we are not sponsored, so we have no cash flow in. This would be totally done by us.
Right.
If anything, it'll be fun. It'll be some bragging rights. And who knows? Maybe we will let
no guy can
the
really mess that up anyway, right? I mean, honestly, when it comes to bragging,
right? Exactly.
You want that, right? Come on.
Right. Exactly. And we would probably have the champion on a show to chat with us about it, to see what his secret formula is on how to win fantasy football leagues. So more information for that will come as we get a little bit closer here, because again, we really don't have a set date when everything is actually going to start in the NFL. So
no,
who knows? But everybody, be sure you're tuning in, because we will be doing an NFL fantasy football preview show coming up here probably the next week or two. So once training camps get really going and we have some more solid information, that show will be happening. So again, thanks everybody for listening. Be safe. Don't take any risks. And we'll talk to everybody next week.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good night, everybody.
Goodbye.